This program has been made possible by a generous grant from the Vermont Fish and Wildlife Department and the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service's Sport Fish and Wildlife Restoration Program, conserving our fish, wildlife, plants, and their habitats for all Vermonters to enjoy.
Next on Outdoor Journal. Women hunters are on the rise. And during a fall turkey hunt, one hunter shares her passion for getting other women into the sport.
Shelburne Museum offers a lot to outdoor enthusiasts, including a collection of Vermont-made guns. And soaring through the woods on a zip line is a different and exciting way to view the forest. All that and more on Outdoor Journal.
It wasn't that long ago that it was rare to see a woman hunter. Today, however, females are the fastest growing demographic in hunting, and women hunters are now a common sight both in the field and at deer camps across Vermont. Keeping this trend going strong is important to state wildlife agencies. It's also important to a growing number of outdoors women who enjoy sharing the many rewards that hunting provides them with their female friends and family members.
I love just being in the woods and hearing no man-made sounds and then feeling that adrenaline because was that a squirrel or was that a deer? But you know, if you're just tiptoeing through the woods, you're trying to be quiet, trying to be stealthy, you do get to see things that you wouldn't ordinarily see.
When it comes to hunting, Wendy Butler of New Haven, Vermont is the real deal. Whether she's slinking through the woods in pursuit of deer or waiting patiently for a shot at a wild turkey, this native Vermonter is passionate about the outdoors. But despite being raised in an outdoors family, Wendy didn't start hunting until she was an adult.
I was born and raised in Middlebury, Vermont. I grew up on a dairy farm. I'm the oldest of 3 girls. And my mom and dad were avid hunters. My parents' first date was a woodchuck hunt. So hunting was first and foremost in their fun activities.
Wendy's mother, Marilyn Grice, was a great hunter and in many respects ahead of her time. But it was Marilyn's involvement in primitive biathlon events that got Wendy excited about shooting and the outdoors.
If it weren't for my mother going to the biathlons and looking like she was having such a fantastic time, I wouldn't have been interested in going. So yeah, it does go back to my mother and her incredibly competitive spirit and love of the outdoors. And she was someone whose hair was always so perfectly coiffed that you were not allowed to touch her hair. But somehow in the fall, she morphed into this crazy wilderness woman who would go for 3 weeks at a time with a bandana on her head so that she could go into the woods.
Wendy's mother was not only a role model for her daughters, she was an inspiration to other women.
One of the things that's been really neat to hear from women since my mom has been gone is that they took up hunting because she was doing it. And they said, aha, if Marilyn Grice can go hunting, I can do this. And I've had a number of women come to me and say that the reason that they're hunting today is because she modeled that as an option.
So these are dummy rounds, they're not live, but I'd like you to go ahead and load the gun and close the action.
Women inspiring other women and young girls to participate in traditional outdoor sports has been at the core of a significant increase in female hunters. Over the past 2 decades, the number of women who hunt has almost doubled nationwide, even as the overall number of hunters has declined. Today, about 11% of hunting license buyers in Vermont are female. It's an important trend for state wildlife agencies, which rely on license dollars to fund conservation programs.
Perfect, okay? I want you to do that again.
And there's no question that we're beginning to see more women get involved in the sport. And as a department, we're trying to do what we can to encourage that, to nurture that, to accommodate that. So we'll have segments of our conservation camp for 2 weeks where it's girls only, and we fill them up every time.
You can do it. You can do it, Bonnie.
Ball.
Good job. Yes.
In addition to holding hunter education classes just for women, the Vermont Fish and Wildlife Department has been involved with programs like Doe Camp and Becoming an Outdoors Woman. These programs are designed to introduce women to a variety of outdoor activities, including hunting. Wendy is a certified firearms and archery safety instructor and has been one of the volunteer mentors for both programs.
When women can get together as a community and see one another celebrating their success, it empowers them all that much more, and it's so important that women have that option.
While women can be just as enthusiastic hunters as men, they don't necessarily hunt for the same reasons.
As a lot of us know from experience, one thing that men love about hunting, they love the chase, they love the recreational aspect, they love the challenge of being out there. But for women, it's a little bit different. When surveyed, the number one reason that women get involved in hunting is for food. The second reason is spending time with your family. I think that's why there are so many great stories out there about moms going out and taking their kids on youth weekend, turkey hunting or duck hunting or deer hunting, and there have been some wonderful success stories which I think inspire other kids and other moms to get out there as well.
One look at Fish and Wildlife's Facebook page, and it's clear that the face of hunting is changing. That's in large part due to women like Wendy and other outdoors women who are now leading the charge to get the next generation involved in traditional outdoor sports. Wendy often takes young girls hunting during the various youth seasons. She's also mentored adult women on some exciting spring turkey hunts.
I love getting women involved in shooting sports or hunting. It doesn't have to be hunting. If anyone shows any inkling of interest at all, I always invite them to come out and shoot.
One of the things that keeps Wendy returning to the woods is her passion for shooting her Flintlock muzzle-loading rifle, which she affectionately named after her great-great-grandmother.
So this is Mary Jane, and this was the first Flintlock that I owned. This was one that my dad had made for me when I started participating in the primitive biathlons.
Wendy had immediate success deer hunting with Mary Jane, shooting a buck and a doe her first fall. Now she also hunts turkeys with a smoothbore Flintlock. These beautiful handcrafted shotguns were made by Wendy's husband, Randy. I was thrilled to try them before Wendy and I headed out in an attempt to bag a Thanksgiving turkey. Now, a lot of people have never shot a Flintlock. There's no safety. Instead, there's 3 different positions of the hammer, right?
Exactly.
Half cock, which is where we are right now, is essentially safe.
Right.
When you fire, it's all the way down, and when you want to shoot, you put it on full cock.
That's right.
And when you shoot, the flint comes down, hits the front of this, which is called the frizzen.
The frizzen.
Pushes that back, throws sparks down into the pan, which you put some 4F, some very fine black powder in. And from the pan, that charge goes in the touch hole, the vent hole, and hopefully ignites your main charge.
Exactly.
And I did hit the diamond, correct?
Yes, you did. It's wiggling.
All right. That was a good clean ignition.
Yes.
And it is a light trigger. Shooting these guns is a blast, but loading them takes care. For turkey hunting with her 20-gauge Flintlock, Wendy uses 80 grains of black powder, followed by a cardboard patch and wadding material. Then 1 1/4 ounces of size 6 pellets are poured into the barrel, which is followed by another cardboard patch to hold them in place. So you're sort of replicating a shot shell, but loading one
piece at a time. Yeah.
And I can see why you want your first shot to count.
Right.
Because it takes a while to reload. A little bit of 4F black powder. And that's full cock, right, Wendy?
That's full cock and a light trigger.
Well, I'd like to think if I'd been shooting at a turkey, Wendy, that I'd have a turkey on the ground right now. That looks good.
Most likely you would.
We each touched off a couple of shots before hitting the woods. It was obvious that these primitive guns were capable of bagging a turkey, but their effective range is not nearly as great as a modern shotgun. On the last day of the 2012 fall wild turkey season, we set up in an area I found while scouting where turkeys traveled to and from a cut cornfield. After about 20 minutes of calling, we had a lone turkey winding its way toward us.
Bird.
You see one?
Straight ahead.
Straight ahead, right down below us. All right, I see it, I see it.
I love going into the woods with my flintlock because I feel like I am just that much closer to nature.
It's coming right to us.
It sounds sort of funny to say that I'm going in to be closer to nature with a flintlock, but I have to be really close to what I'm going to shoot at.
Wendy limits her shots to no more than 20 yards. That meant we had to be stock still because the slightest movement can send these wary birds running.
It's perfect.
All right. Anytime you're ready.
Excellent. Excellent.
Wow, that's beautiful.
Excellent, excellent, excellent. Nice fall turkey.
Nice fall turkey. Thank you so much. You're an excellent guide.
That's going to be a great eating bird.
It's going to be a good eating bird.
But you know what? You have made me a believer in the efficiency of a flintlock muzzle loading. Holy smokes.
Check out this pattern. This is...
That's devastating. That's his noggin was right here.
That's right. 18 yards. There's no sniping them from long distance, but if you can get them in close.
But that's part of the charm also,
Exactly.
right? Work them in
Exactly.
close. Be patient. It
Be
means some days
patient.
the birds
Wait
walk
for it,
away.
Wait for it. I was talking to myself. Wait for it, and yeah.
Bagging a turkey is hard enough with a modern shotgun and magnum shells. But for Wendy, the added challenge of using a flintlock only inspires her to spend more time outdoors, which ultimately brings her that much closer to the land that sustains us all.
I feel like I have a connection to where my food is coming from. I'm not just, going to the local grocery store and buying meat, and I get a tremendous amount of satisfaction sitting down to venison tenderloin and vegetables from my garden. Many times we will sit down to a meal that is 100% on the table because of our own efforts. And that means a lot to me and my family.
If you've ever been to the Shelburne Museum, then you know it's a museum like no other, best described by one of the curators as a collection of collections. The museum may look the same on the surface with iconic structures like the Ticonderoga, the covered bridge, and an assortment of buildings relocated by founder Electra Havemeyer-Webb. But inside the galleries, there's always something new to see. One of the newest exhibits housed in the Beach Gallery is called Lock, Stock, and Barrel, the Terry Tyler collection of Vermont firearms.
This is a cane gun, and it's an underhammer, which is quite unheard of in a cane gun. The one right over here is a full-length telescope on it.
No one knows this exhibit of Vermont-made guns better than Terry Tyler, who began his collection back in the 1960s.
My wife and I had an agreement where nothing would come out of the checkbook or off the kids' feet in order to finance the guns. So, but what I could make nights and weekends, I put toward the guns.
Over the past half-century, the collection has grown to 106 firearms made from 1790 through 1900.
The first one I found was an underhammer. I'd never even heard of an underhammer. An underhammer, the hammer swings up from underneath and strikes a percussion cap and downrange it goes. Roughly a third of this collection are underhammers.
Every gun has a unique story, and Terry remembers them all. In fact, visitors can listen to Terry talk about each gun on MP3 players as they stroll through the exhibit.
Here are some handguns. This one here, if you ran out of it, if you fired it once, of course it was done, but you could beat a person to death with that barrel with no problem at all. Most of the guns that are in this collection are made by individual gunsmiths in various towns around the state. And a lot of them did it for their neighbors or hunters or farmers or whatever. Some of them were pretty much plain Janes, and others are very ornate.
To really appreciate the beauty of these guns, Shelburne Museum curator Jean Burks included a three-dimensional display as part of the exhibit.
To me, they're works of art because of the craftsmanship that went into them, the design, the thoughtfulness of how the inlay was done, the engraving on the inlay. It was all very carefully planned out to really make a beautiful firearm as well as a functional one.
It's so intricate, the inlaying of a different kind of wood. It takes a lot of time and a lot of work, and it shows some of the artistic facets of gun making.
It very much speaks to the interests of our founder, Electra Havemeyer-Webb. She loved big game sport, and she liked hunting of all kinds. So this very much fits into her personal interests.
In fact, adjacent to the gun exhibit is the Beach Lodge. A replica of the Webb's Adirondack camp is filled with Boone and Crockett record-setting animals, many of them harvested by Electra herself. The Dorset House is home to one of the best collections of hand-carved wooden decoys in the world, and the Ogden Pleisner Gallery is filled with outdoor scenes painted by this famous artist. For the curator of this collection, the challenge was to design an exhibit that would appeal to gun lovers and novices alike.
I would like people to come into this exhibit and experience how beautiful the guns are, and I think how engaging the exhibit design is.
It's unbelievable. As a matter of fact, the fellow that appraised the collection for me in 40 years in the business, he'd never seen a display like this. The thought that went into it, you can see a lot of the guns from both sides as opposed to just being nailed on the wall the way I had them at my home.
After 5 decades of gun shows and time researching his purchases, Terry became somewhat of an expert on Vermont-made guns. With the help of his friend Harry Phillips, they co-authored what is considered to be the definitive book on Vermont's early gunsmiths and gun makers.
We started doing some real serious research, and we thought we'd come up with about 150 makers. And we came up with a total gunsmiths, gun makers, etc. of about 400.
Nearly 3/4 of the guns on display are made by individual gunsmiths. The remaining guns come from a handful of Vermont factories that produced firearms.
Working with Terry on this exhibit, I was very surprised to learn how important Windsor, Vermont was to the Industrial Revolution. This is where the replication of parts took place for firearms. This is where mass production took place, and it all had to do with the firearm industry that was growing in Windsor, and I really didn't have any idea how important that industry really was to the history of this state.
The Shelburne Museum now owns the guns, and for Terry, this means his collection will always be intact. In fact, he takes so much pride in the display that whenever he's in the area, he can't resist strolling through the exhibit. And as long as he adheres to his wife's rules, there's always a chance that the collection may grow.
If I find a gun that was made by somebody that I know was a gunsmith or a gun maker in Vermont, I'll pick it up.
Fairfield Swamp Wildlife Management Area it's in the town of Fairfield. It's a large swamp that was created when we built the dam on Dead Creek back in the early 1960s, I believe. and we flooded that area, and it was mainly done for waterfowl production in that day and age, and it still continues to be used for waterfowl hunting. Very popular for canoeing because it's a real flat water, you know, don't have to worry about wind and waves too much, and lots of wildlife. We have ospreys nesting there. You could see a moose in the swamp, lots of deer. We do some forest management on some of it, promote deer habitat and rough grouse habitat on there. And there's two sections of it. One section is north of Route 36, and there's another section south of Route 36. And popular for hunting in the fall, canoeing in the summertime. Has some hiking trails on it. It can be used year-round. It's a very, very beautiful place.
There are many ways to enjoy Vermont's fabulous foliage, from a Sunday drive to above the ridgeline in a hot air balloon or glider. But there's a new trend of people zipping right through it. In the canopies of Vermont's forest, some new noises are being heard. It's a new way to experience the beauty of the deep woods. It's called ziplining. With a click of a harness and a helmet on your head, you're ready for what is not exactly a walk in the woods.
All right, here we go.
This was my first time zipping, as it was for most of the group.
You ready for this?
I'm ready, I think.
I hope so.
Me too. You're gonna love it.
We all agreed the first step is the most challenging.
There we go, ready?
But once you let go, fear quickly turns into an amazing adrenaline rush.
Ziplining is mainly to get one person from one point to another platform in the air. Otherwise, you take along bridges and, frankly, walking slow. And so if you can fly from spot to spot, you're one, fulfilling a dream to fly, and two, it's just getting to a new ecosystem real quickly.
Arbor Trek Canopy Adventures runs this high-wire eco tour with a series of 8 zips, 2 sky bridges, and 2 rappels, moving you through the woods over the course of almost a mile.
Well done. The course is based above the Nordic and snowshoe trails of Smuggler's Notch Resort, so it's pretty much another trail system, another elevation above theirs.
However, this trail system only requires gravity. The start of the course is the highest point, and you work your way down. There's a lot to see when you're 75 feet into the air. Guides tell you as much or as little as you want to know about the surroundings.
This forest here was clear cut about 200 years ago. It's been harvested a few times since then.
Back in the day when they first came over here and saw all the large, straight eastern hemlocks on the East Coast, they thought they'd make great masts for sails. Also, their bark back in the day, they would use it to tan leather.
You have sometimes thrill seekers that want to just come out and zip as fast as you can, and sometimes people want to know all about the birds and the natural flora and fauna, so you kind of blend the both.
With the leaves changing color, autumn might be one of the prettiest times to zip, but at Arbor Trek, zipping occurs year-round.
Take your breath away, very good. It was just radiant colors that we could see. We were above all the trees tops, and it was just wonderful.
To be up that high and just to see everything and how everything's changing and the streams and listening to the water, and it's beautiful. It's beautiful. It was a very good feeling to let go and then just feel that zip.
Got the tear in the eye.
Well, it did get easier, and the last 2 were the most, but I got psyched out in my brain. I'm a music school teacher.
Oh, you got it, awesome.
And I just would sing a song as I zipped down the line.
There is a method to this zippiness.
How fast is this one?
I would say most people hit about 35 miles an hour. So if you're heavier, you go faster.
You go faster.
But if you're lighter, you might get stuck in the middle.
If you do get stuck in the middle, we taught you how to pull yourself back in at ground school. So just sit right down, slide out a little bit.
If you have a real need for speed, you can double up and take a tandem ride with one of the guides.
I like to think of it as like a good book that starts slow. You get introduced to the characters, a little foreshadowing. All of a sudden the zips start getting longer. You can't see where you're going. Dramatic. Then you have the big, long 1,000-foot zip, which the climax, and then kind of it winds down to some new rappels and new skills to get through the woods. So it's a good way just to go out and enjoy the woods.
A different perspective of the Vermont woods that comes with a real rush. For more information on this or any other Outdoor Journal segment, be sure to visit our website at vpt.org/outdoorjournal. Our site features video on demand, as well as links to related sites.
You can call, write, or email us, and as always, we look forward to your comments and suggestions.